Audio check, checking audio. Check, check. Check, check.
Welcome. I'm sure the family appreciates each one of you being here this day for a celebration in honor of the life of Isaac Wallace Mecham, beloved father, grandfather, great-grandfather, brother, uncle, cousin, friend, and neighbor. He was born November 27th, 1957 in Salina, Utah. Died June 18th, 2025, Salina, Utah. His parents were William Eldwin and Vivian Deaton Mecham, both deceased. His children are Jason, Lacey Mecham, Jesse, Skyla Mecham, Jenny Dustin Beckstead, Lynn Mecham, Jamie Brian Mecham, Alyssa Riley, Meek Waters, Krista Berry Mecham, Sierra Mike Mecham, Jesse Alex Jepson, James Kenzie Holmes, and June Kerr. He had 33 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. His siblings are Jesse James, Gladys, Punchy Christensen, Bill Mecham, and Mark Campbell. He's preceded in death by his sister Elda Lynn James and Jane Mecham, grandsons Drake Mecham and Jaden Holmes, and his best buddy Gary Mickelson and Bruce Carter. These services will be held here today at the Springer Turner Funeral Home. I'm Kim Robison. I'll be officiating. The pallbearers for today are Dylan Mecham, Jordan Mecham, Brendan Beckstead, Damian Mecham, Stetson Beckstead, and Tyson Mecham. The family prayer was offered by James Holmes, a son. I will be conducting. There's a recorded musical selection, Born Free, by Kid Rock. And then there'll be a speaker, Dallas James, a nephew, and then a recorded musical selection, End of the Line by Traveling Wilburys. And then James Holmes, a son, will be speaking. And then we'll have a recorded musical selection with Neil Young. And then we'll go to that point in the program.
Good morning, everybody. As I was sitting around last night, just kind of staring at the sky, I was trying to figure out what a good way or a good word would be to describe this person who was in my life for so many years. And I kind of thought back to my childhood. I thought back to days after I had joined the Marine Corps and days leading up. And the more I thought, there's one thing I knew, but it was after I had already enlisted and been in. And is that he was a warrior. It's the best word I could think about that would describe this person is a warrior. A warrior is ingrained with our institutional core values. Honor. The honor of the standard of his conduct. The way he carried himself. The honor for his family. Courage. Courage. Doing what is right even when it's the unpopular thing to do. He didn't care about that. He would always do what he believed was right. And commitment. Commitment to his family, commitment to his self, and commitment to his community. And he done a lot of things for a lot of people. As a warrior, he understood many things that some of us take for granted today. In the safest, freest, greatest country in the world. And that is warrior ethos. Even at 67, I can still see him now with his homeboys fighting our enemies. Warrior ethos to him went everywhere. He continually had a sense of duty, selflessness, and commitment. He was a man of many words, or few words, but lots of action. This was something you learn in the military. Something we would call a fire and forget weapon. Because once you shoot, you don't need to worry about going back to check if it hit. You never had to double check his work to make sure it was done right. Usually your way of doing things was the wrong way. You knew how he felt about many things. You knew how he felt about you. You knew how he felt about the current situation in anything. I had an opportunity to go to California with him months ago to watch a graduation for his grandson. And it meant something a lot to me because, well, he's a Marine, and that's what we do. So we loaded him up and took him over there, and he told me something as we're sitting there talking stories. He told me that he met Carlos Hathcock. Now, some of you guys don't know who that is, but this was the man who was basically the father of the sniper program. And he says, yeah, I met him, and I got to go over his house, and I got to shoot with him. And man, was I jealous. Because I've only heard stories of this man, and he got to live with him and shoot with him. And I thought that was pretty cool. Another thing he didn't give is sympathy. Many warriors before him didn't have time for such a useless emotion. He didn't give pity. He didn't feel sorry for anybody, and that included himself. He would be respectful and humble. But sympathetic, I'm not sure that he understood the word. In America, we call our warriors soldiers. And I think he's the very definition of what it means. I went from fear when I was younger. I learned to idolize the person as I was a teenager, getting ready to take my steps into the military. And at the end, I ended up respecting him and everything he had done, because I understood the sacrifices that he made for his family and his country. Things as me as a child did not understand. I'm glad I got to know him. And I'm telling you, up there, when he gets to the pearly gates and they don't have his shit together, somebody's in for an ass chewing.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don.
You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. But it's alright, even if you say you're wrong. Well, it's alright. Sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright, as long as you got someone to love you. Well, it's alright. Every day is different day. Maybe somewhere down the road, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. Maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays Purple Haze. Well, it's alright, even if push comes to shove. Well, it's alright, if you got someone to love. Well, it's alright, everything will work out fine. Well, it's alright, we're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just glad to be here, happy to feel that. It don't matter if you're by my side. I'm satisfied. Well, it's alright, even if you're old and gray. Well, it's alright, you still got something to say. Well, it's alright, remember to live and let live. Well, it's alright, just to get through is to kill. Well, it's alright, riding around the breeze. Well, it's alright, living the life you please. Well, it's alright, even if the sun don't shine. Well, it's alright, going to the end of the line.
Someone took my tissues. And I'm gonna need them, all right?
Do you want my used one?
Someone got a box.
I literally thought you just were taking it.
I've given a lot of talks in my life, and this isn't one that I care to give, but I feel I owe it to Wallace. Those of you who don't know me, I'm the youngest of all the kids, one of the many marriages. I had the chance to get to know Wallace from about the time I was 5 was when he came into our lives, and he just kind of stayed. I love him, and he would probably slug me right now and tell me to suck it up. As I got thinking about, what to share, a lot of memories came flooding in, and some really good and great, some not so good. There's a few boots with some flowers, and I probably received a few of those in my butt a few times. And if you don't think so, you can ask any of my sisters. They said I wasn't the greatest. I don't remember any of that. But I just wanted to share some experiences that I personally had with Wallace over the years that I knew him and grew to love him. One of those, I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't hunt at the time, and we decided that we were going to take the old Bronco up on Triangle, and all the boys came, Jason, Jesse, Lynn, I can't remember who else was there. Somebody else was there with us. But we went up there, and I remember not seeing hardly any elk, and Wallace hunted from the roads a lot, and we were driving down the road, and all of a sudden, somebody said, elk, and we were hunting spikes at the time, and there happened to be 2 spikes up on the hill, and you would have thought World War III popped out, because all these boys barreled out, and I'm talking like lever action 30-30, what was the old long one, 45-70 with the pop-up sight. There might have been a revolver in there somewhere, I don't know. But these boys just went to town, and I think they kept shooting even after the elk weren't standing there. Nobody knew who hit it. Nobody knew who hit what or where. And I just remember old Rory bringing his S10, his little white S10. That thing was slammed to the ground. And for some reason, we called him to bring that truck up. And we loaded both those elk in whole. And I don't know how you made it off the mountain, Rory. But yeah, it was a fun one. Wallace taught me how to ride a horse. That's how I learned. I'll still remember the first time my horse threw me off. We lived at Horse Haven Stables in Salina, and you could ride out the back gate up on the hill, and I was going for a ride, and I didn't make it just past the gate, and my horse reared up backwards and threw me off. And here I come marching down the side of the barn, leading my horse, and Wallace met me, and he looked at me, and I was crying. I'm a crier. And he said, "Get your butt up on that horse." And I'm like, "Nope, never riding that horse again." He said, "Get on that horse." "No, I'm not getting on that horse." And he grabbed me about as quick as he could by my belt, and he threw me on that saddle, and he slapped me on the leg, and he said, "No, you ride that horse until you stop crying." So I did. So I rode him. And I learned a big lesson that day from him, just that he was a warrior. He didn't matter what you threw at him, he'd find some way to pick himself up. I remember we were hunting one time, and we were on the horses. My twin sister Jessie was riding, Wallace was in front leading, and Jesse was in the middle, and I was bringing up the back. And I remember on the trail there was a pretty big limb. It was about that thick, and it hung about yay far over the trail. And Wallace leaned, "Look out for that branch!" And Jesse just was doing this, and that limb caught her vest and drug her right off the back of that horse. And she lit right on her back. And I just looked off my horse. She was going like this, and she was screaming. And once again, Wallace said, "Get your butt up on that horse." "I don't want to get on that horse." He made her get on the horse. We won't really talk about the experience of Sierra and Carissa riding horses because it wasn't usually good ones. It usually ended with them holding reins about like this, trying to get the horse to stop, and it running down the barn trying to swipe them off with one of the rafters. So I shared this with all the kids. We rode a lot behind Horsehaven up on the NS, a lot. And I remember one time we went, and we got up all the way up on top on the backside, and I really had to go to the bathroom. And not the bathroom that you typically men can do outside. We'd prefer that one, obviously, but I said, "Wallace, you got some toilet paper in those saddlebags?" "Nope." And he handed me his knife. He said, "Cut the top of your socks off." And if you ever see me, you will never see me wearing ankle socks, ever. And I have the tan line to prove it. We had an old four-wheeler that we had bought, and the brakes started going out. And Wallace decided one day we were going to load it up and go take it to Jorgensen's. And he said, "You're going to load it." And I'm like, "I'm not loading it. It doesn't have any brakes." He's like, "No, you're loading it." And you guys know Wallace. He wasn't going to let me win. And I'm like, "Fine, I'll load it." So I loaded it. And I rode that thing right into the back of the truck and right into the back window. And it shattered. And I started crying. And I looked at Wallace, and he just kind of dumbfounded, like, "What did you do that for?" And I don't remember him really yelling at me much about that. I think he just kind of was probably like, "I should have just done that myself." We had this old tractor up at Horsehaven, and for some reason we didn't use ladders. We used the bucket and the loader on the tractor. And it wasn't a very good tractor. It was old, and the loader tended to hop a little bit when you'd lower it with any weight. And Wallace said, "Hey, I need to doing something on the front of the barn on the sign." And he said, "I need you to raise me up in that tractor, in that loader." And I'm like, this is a dumb idea. And I mean, I'm only 10 or 12 at the time, maybe. And I remember we got it done, and I was lowering it down, and for some reason the hydraulics kind of had an air bubble in there or something like it usually does, and it kind of like dropped a little bit. And Wallace started yelling, "What are you doing?" We thought I was going to dump him out. He held on, though. Oh, man. I remember getting my first shotgun from Wallace. I had a single shot, I still have it, single shot 12 gauge. And I used to actually take that shotgun on horse, and I would go up above the house and shoot rabbits off the back of my horse with that gun. But I remember the first time we took that gun out to go shoot it, and Wallace, being the funny guy that he is, decided it was a good idea to sneak a buckshot into that shotgun. And I mean, I don't know how old I was. I wasn't very big, and I shot it and about blew my arm off, and he just got a big old chuckle out of that one. Um, one of the more recent ones, this one's tough. My wife and I, about 2.5 years ago, had our second kid, our first little boy. And this isn't sad, it's just we found out in the hospital that he had Down syndrome. And he's healthy. You guys will see him running around if you haven't already. Wallace loved him. I remember calling Wallace in the hospital and sharing about Cooper. He started talking about his sister Jade. And then he ended and he said, if you don't want that little boy, you bring him down to me and I'll take care of him. Cooper loved him, and it's probably because he always wore a hat. We were sitting here last night, and Cooper came up and snatched that hat right off that saddle. And he started wearing it. And the sisters were like, what would he say? He would say, just let him have it. Because I was trying to take it back. But I'll just remember that experience and how it helped my wife and I just feel more grounded in that situation that was pretty hard for us. And you know, Wallace was he was my dad. I mean, he was there a lot of the times my dad wasn't. And this is more a personal one, but I remember my dad told me he had to work one time, and I wanted to go hunt with him, and he said, I got to work this weekend. And Wallace wasn't really hunting at that point in our lives, but he decided he was going to go buy an elk tag, and we went for a ride on the mountain, and we ran into my dad on the mountain. And I just remember so many times Wallace was there. He didn't have to be, but he was. I found this poem, and I wanted to share it. It says, "Riding home. He wasn't one for fancy words or chasing dreams that flew like birds, but when he spoke, you felt the ground. A man whose word was solid sound. His boots were worn, his hat sat low. He'd seen the sun, the wind, the snow. With calloused hands and steady eyes, he taught us how the strong folk rise. He loved his kin, he worked his land. He never asked, he lent a hand. And in his silence, loud and true, you knew he'd always ride for you. He taught us grit ain't bark or boast. It's standing firm when things hurt most. It's keeping promises, come rain, and meeting joy, same as pain. He raised his kids like fence posts straight, with lessons carved by work and fate. And grandkids knew, through storm or shine, they'd always ride in Grandpa's line. Now heaven's range called him home, where dust don't cling and spirits roam. He's sitting tall on trails above, still watching us with quiet love. So tip your hat and bow your head for all the good this cowboy spread. He left behind a life well told, a heart of fire and a soul of gold. I just want to end with something that's actually given me a little peace and comfort in the last couple weeks. You guys got a program, this little letter on the back. He wrote this quite a few years ago. I'll read it. He said, this is at the end of his letter after he shared all his demands. I'll bet you all didn't think I'd remember to tell you all that I love you. I'm very proud of each of you. Always remember the good things I did and the good times we had. To all others in my life, I can only leave you with my everlasting thanks and respect. I've had a good ride and a real good time with you all. Thanks for being my friends. I love you all. Goodbye. I hope to see you all again soon. Your dad, your friend, always. He signed it. You know, Wallace wasn't much of a spiritual person. He didn't attend church. He did a couple times for me, but he always said the church would crumble. Never did, but he always said it would. But you know, in that letter, he shares, I hope to see you all again. And you know, at the end of the day, if all I can take is a little bit of hope that I'll see that guy again, then I'll take it. And I'll hold on to it. Because I believe it. That guy was too good of a man. You won't find anybody with more integrity, more grit, and more love. And yeah, a lot of it was tough, but that's okay. I needed it. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for the time. And I hope to see you again, Wallace. We love you. I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
there's some time for open tribute time. Or for those of you, if any of you would like to say a few words about him, feel free to come up.
Not good at public speaking. My wife wanted me to share maybe a memory or a quote from Wallace. So main memory would be, never pass the quiet room to get after somebody or something, for something they did wrong. And if he's where everybody's saying he's going, he's going to be reunited with everybody and every people that he knew and pets, I guess. So they'll be caught off guard in heaven because it's usually quiet and peaceful. And like I was caught off guard the first time I heard him. It was unexpectedly when he yelled at his dog and yelled, "Shorty! Shorty! Where are you supposed to be?" So good luck.
I'm one of Wallace's many wives. So I'm also the mother to Carissa, Sierra, Jesse, and James. Stepmother to all the rest. I love you all dearly. I love every one of you grandkids. Wallace loved you all so much. I just wanted to share a couple funny stories. So Wallace and I went to a convention in San Diego. We got to stay out on Coronado Island. We were out on the beach, and they had us dress up and do the YMCA dance. So Wallace and I are dressed up YMCA, and the next year when the convention announcement came out, there's Wallace right on the front page in his YMCA glamour. So he made the front page of the convention, so it was pretty awesome. During that convention, they also had a pie eating contest. So Denny's was going to come out with this new banana cream pie, and I signed him up. I'm like, "You got it. You're going to win." He gets in there. They just eat that banana cream pie. He wins the contest, and then they had a recall on the pie. That was my favorite thing to tell him was, "I'm sorry all that pie you ate got recalled." But he took it in stride. He was good. He was good. And I just want you all to know how good he was to all my kids and how much he loved every one of you. They don't make him like him anymore. He was a good man. And thank you. Oh. Do you want to tell everyone that you miss your grandpa? No. Oh, okay. Okay. But anyway, thank you all for coming, and love you all very much. I know he will see you again.
So, my name's Gish Ivy. I'm the husband of the woman that had June down there. Kind of odd for me to come up here and speak, but I just have to say, Nicole's family on the other side looks a lot like you. And I thank you very much for taking her in. The same thing Wallace would have done. Same thing I did with her and her brothers and sisters. I know, you know, Nader said he was a warrior. Wallace was also a godly man, because it takes a godly man to do that. God has used many men throughout time. Some weren't even Christians, but God used Wallace. And as a result of it. And it's awesome. I think it's just awesome. I want to thank you for that and welcoming her. But this an eerie feeling. I talked to him one time for about 5 minutes. That's all I know. I seen a picture of him years ago. My ex-wife showed me a couple of pictures of y'all. I don't know which one it was. I think one of them was Jennifer. And after Nicole was born, I cut her in umbilical cord. I loved her, still do. She's a good child. But I always told her mother, she needs to see her family. She needs to at least, meet them. Oh, she was dead set against it. Didn't want nothing against him, Wallace, but she just dead set against it. I don't know what her thinking was. Never did. When we finally divorced, one of the last things she told me, and she did it in anger, don't you never tell. We called her Nicole. We knew June Nicole is what we called her. She was absolutely, June is also my mother's name and her grandmother's name, so that's how she got it. But anyway, try to make this short, but and I never did. And she called me up one day. She said, Dad, and he talked about something, and I, could have been anything, something with the kids. I sure come over. And then she said, I need to talk to you about something else too. And I looked over at my wife. I said, she knows. She said, how do you know that? I said, she knows. Which is good. I thought it was a good thing. And I told her when it happened that I always wanted to tell her. And it was good, and it was I was glad she had two daddies. But I went from daddy to stepdaddy. I didn't like that till I got promoted. But she got to be daddy to him for a short time, and I'm so grateful for that, because I think it's important. The bloodline is important. And if you don't have that particular brother, the man that loves you, the woman that loves you, that's raised you, whatever, that's important too. But it's also important to know who comes from what for medical reasons and whatever. But if there's any doubt, my grandson up there, all you got to do is stand around and look around. She has a picture in her thing she showed me a while ago, and I couldn't believe it. I've seen a lot of grandparents that look like grandsons, but I've never seen one would pass for a twin. And it blew my mind. So she's got a documented thing. But thank you all for welcoming us and welcoming me. You've been so gracious. And Wallace would tell you, get along and keep the spirit close to you and do right. Just do right, because it's sometimes the hard things he knows. But I was looking at this stuff, it's amazing. He was a hero. I talked to him for 5 minutes and learned a lot about him. I was talking to Alvin, just seeing how they was doing. I just wanted to know how they were interacting with some of y'all and stuff. I was concerned. And I immediately, after talking to him, I said, well, let me talk to this guy. I got him on the phone. We hashed it out. It didn't take long. I knew, loving his heart. I could tell you talking about a man all day. They don't even know. But I can tell through his line here and people he's raised. Love him anyway. I got two. When I met her mama, her mama was pregnant. She had a boy 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. I took them in and I loved them, and they call me Dad to this day. In front of their dad, they call me Dad, and they call him Dad too. But life's a blessing, and Wallace would want you to be happy in it and do the right thing, and everything else will work out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I could just end with amen and appreciate the words that's been said, and it's awesome. I'm thankful for the opportunity that the family asked me if I would conduct. I knew Wallace when he was little. So was I, though, but but I used to hang around with his cousin a lot. We was probably best friends all through school and stuff. But I did a lot of things with Wallace and his family. I knew his mom and dad real well, and all his cousins, and we had a lot of fun times together throughout the year. And then as we got older, we kind of not so much hung up together, but we still see each other, and he was a great man, and he's got a great family and grandkids, and I appreciate him and the warrior he was, like Dallas said, and James. And when you look at the songs he played, you know, I mean, that they just played, you know, Born Free, which we all are. And it stays free because have great men like him and others that serve our country, men and women, and fight for our freedoms. Especially this time of the year right now, we're going to celebrate the independence. But it's because people like him and other men and women that make this country so great. You know, it's born free like Kid Rock, and he was a rock. Maybe he was a rock, a part of the kid, I don't know. But, you know, them songs all fit in for him. You know, Neil Young talking about the harvest moon, but that goes back to my era. And Neil Young also had a great song that was a big hit called Heart of Gold. Wallace had a heart of gold. If he told you he'd do something, he'd do it. You could trust in his word and know that it'd get done. You know, and if you jump into the Lord of the Rings, and I never was really into that, but there's a quote in there. It's like a song, but it says roads go on. And there's just a part of it. It says the road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it begun. Not far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eagerly feet until it joins something larger, the larger way, where my paths and errands meet. The road will go on. And I think Wallace would like us to continue on. And, you know, grief is a natural byproduct of love. And one cannot selfishly love one another and not grieve at his suffering or eventually death. The only way to award the grief would be to not experience the love. And it is love that gives life its richness and its meaning. And I know you could close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memories and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want you to do, and that's smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. And I know years ago there was a popular speaker. He started off a seminar and he had a $20 bill and he had it in the air, handed it in the air, and there was a crowd of like 200 people around. And he says, "Who would like this $20 bill?" And he said every hand in the audience went up, or in the crowd, you know, they all wanted it. And he says, "Well, I'm going to give it to one of you." But he said, "Let me do this." And he crumpled it up and he says, "Who wants it?" And they all still raised their hand. And he says, well, he replied, "What if I do this?" And then he dropped it on the ground, and stomped it around, and mashed his foot around it, and picked it back up and showed it to him again, and the bill was all crumpled up and kind of dirty, and he said, "Who still wants it?" And all the hands went up again. And then he says, "My friends, I've just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did to this money, you still wanted it. Because it didn't decrease in value. It was still worth $20. Many times in our lives, our life gets crumpled. And it grinds us up into the dirt. We make bad decisions or deal with poor circumstances. We feel worthless, maybe. But no matter what happens, or what happens to us, you will never lose your value. You're special. Each one of you. And don't ever forget that. Because you were special to Wallace, I know. Everybody was. He could talk to anybody. And he's all special. So if I could say one thing, I'd say to you, live life. Cherish each moment as a blessing from God. It's found in Mosiah 20:21, but it says, love as well, even to your loftiest, live it well, even to your loftiest potential, then the anticipation of death should not hold you hostage. With the help of the Lord, your deeds and desires will qualify you to receive everlasting joy, glory, immortality, and eternal life. And I know that's the way Wallace would want us to be. I'm thankful that I knew Wallace and got to know him, and I'm thankful for all his service to his country, the community, and everyone he come in contact with. He made a friend. And I say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. I guess the interment will be in the Aurora City Cemetery. And I think they're going to meet at the park and then proceed from there. But we'll do that. And then we'll intervene until then. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I guess we need the pallbearers to come forth.
All bears, we'll just have you gathered by the glass doors and we'll push to you.
Okay.